Hello and welcome to the Actual Tech Media EcoCast. My name is Jess and I am excited to be here with you all today. But before we jump into our content, I have some basic information that I want to cover with you. All right, let's kick off our day here today by taking a quick tour of your audience console. And we're going to start with the questions window. So if you haven't already said hi, there is a whole audience of cool humans out there, so reach out and give a wave to the other members of the Actual Tech Media community. Now, keep in mind that if you do have any technical issues today, a browser refresh is going to fix just about anything. But if those tech gremlins are clinging on today, no problem. Just throw a comment in the question section and our crew will be there to help. We also want this to be an informative webinar for you, so throughout today's EcoCast, we hope you'll get engaged and ask all your burning questions. Not only will we have team members responding to you over a live chat, we will also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of our presentations. Now, if we don't get to your question during the live webinar today, don't worry, because the awesome experts that we have here with us will be following up after we wrap. All right, next up, there's going to be lots of cool aha moments on the EcoCast today. And if you want to share those with your community, we've made it nice and easy for you. You can use the Twitter button right there in your audience console, and the hashtag for today's EcoCast will be automatically added to your post. All right, our last stop on this guided tour, be sure to check out the handouts tab for some awesome resources and takeaways from our speakers here today. We have an info pack collection, solution briefs, white papers, data sheets, free trials, ebooks, upcoming webinars, and more. So many great resources, so be sure to go explore. Now, if that wasn't enough fun, we also have some exciting prizes that we'll be giving away throughout today's EcoCast. I'm going to tell you a bit more about those later on, but a few quick reminders for you all. First, you do need to be here live in attendance at the EcoCast in order to qualify to win a prize, and we will follow up with all of you after we wrap. Now, all winners must submit an IRS Form W-9 to Actual Tech Media, and all winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. Now, if you don't know what those full T's and C's are, that's fine. We've got the full thing for you. Just head on over to that handouts tab, click in, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll find them waiting for you there. Now, the absolute most important thing to remember is that we love getting all your insightful questions during these live webinars. In fact, we love it so much that we actually have a special additional prize for all you inquisitive folks out there. So in today's EcoCast, we will be giving away a prize for the best question asked in each of our live sessions. Now, the expert speakers and teams will review all questions asked after we wrap the webinar, which means that even if your question does not get read out in a live session, there is still a chance to win. If you are a lucky winner here today and you would like to donate the value of your prize, we have several wonderful organizations that we partner with. So let us know when we follow up about your big win, and we'll get that rolling for you. Again, we are so happy to have you all here with us live at the EcoCast today, and we want to keep that good feeling going, so let's connect on social media. Reach out and connect with Actual Tech Media on Twitter and on LinkedIn. We have lots of great content, and we always want to hear from you. Now, if you're looking for more awesome content and resources right after we wrap the EcoCast today, be sure to subscribe to the Actual Tech Media channel on YouTube. Another fun way to win a prize and, hey, grow this awesome community is to refer an industry friend or a coworker to the Actual Tech Media webinar series. Now, you'll find a link to do that right in your handouts tab, and you will also be automatically redirected at the end of the webinar. And both you and your coworker or friend could win a prize, and we hold those drawings every month. So be sure to refer a friend because, hey, it could quite literally be a win-win situation. Next, we have a cool opportunity for all the decision makers out there to get connected with new and emerging tech and innovative vendors. Here's how it works. All you need to do is click on the link in your handouts tab, fill out a quick application, and the Actual Tech crew will then match you with some vendors that we think you should probably be chatting with based on your needs. There will also be fun opportunities that you get to choose to join in, like surveys, test runs, new solutions, extended demos, and so on. You'll get some chances to win extra prizes, you'll chat with great people, and you'll learn about the hottest new trends in tech. So be sure to apply, or hey, send that link to a decision maker on your team. Now, I want to take a quick minute here to remind you all about one of my favorite resources, and that is ransomware.org. You can find out everything you need to know about ransomware, how to prepare, prevent, and recover. This site is jam-packed with information, helpful tips, checklists, strategic approaches, case studies, everything you need in one place. So wherever you are in your ransomware preparedness journey, there is something for you at ransomware.org. Go check it out and start exploring. All right, I have one more exciting resource I have to tell you about today, and that is the Gorilla Guide Book Club. It's going to give you access to free enterprise IT books authored by top industry experts, so you can stay up to date on trending enterprise technology. And yes, these books will work on your Kindle, your mobile device, and as I said, they are completely free. You can download these awesome resources at gorilla.guide, and there's a link for you in that handouts tab as well. All right, well, we have covered a lot of important things already, and I don't know about you all, but I am excited to dive in. So let's get going.
Hello and welcome, folks. It is time to dive in on today's topic, Discovery Day, Endpoint Management and Protection Tools. With employees working everywhere, in the office, at home, on the road, in coffee shops, endpoint management and protection is arguably the front line of defense for IT departments. From mobile device management to softwares which can be deployed strategically in your organization, today you'll leave equipped with the knowledge to practically approach endpoint management from planning to execution and the ongoing monitoring. If you're looking to enhance your understanding and implementation of endpoint security tools, you are indeed in the right place. We have top industry experts to guide us along on this journey today as well. I'm sure you are all ready and pumped to get started, so we'll go through just a few last bits of info and then get our speakers on out here with us. My name is Mackenzie Puddesy, and I'm a moderator here at Actual Tech Media. My friends and fellow moderators, Jess Steinbach, Scott Becker, Keith Ward, are also here today. And Keith is going to be joining us for a keynote presentation here at the beginning of the EcoCast. If this is your first EcoCast with me, it's great to meet you, and thank you so much for being here. Now, I've got something more for you today than just incredibly valuable information. I've also got some prizes. Today on the EcoCast, you could win one of three $300 Amazon gift cards that will be given away to 3 lucky winners who are here, present, and live with us at the EcoCast. And as mentioned in the housekeeping chat this morning, you can find the full T's and C's linked in the handouts tab if you have any questions about that. And hey, with that last little thing, I believe we are ready to rock. Our keynote speaker today is Larry Seltzer. He'll be setting the stage for today's discussion with my fellow moderator, Keith Ward. He is here live to pose some questions around this topic. And with that, Larry, Keith, I'm going to kick things over to you.
Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining us for this Discovery Day Endpoint Management and Protection Tools webinar. It's going to be a great show, and I'm delighted to have a real expert on with me to discuss kind of a lay of the land here to open things up, and that is Larry Seltzer. Larry is a journalist, an author, and a security expert in general with a CISSP. He's got long, deep experience in this space, and we're delighted to have him on. Larry, welcome today.
Okay. Hi, Keith. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So why don't we jump right in? Why is, in this current era, endpoint management and protection more critical than ever?
I'd say the biggest reason is that the increasing complexity of configuration and of threats, the absolute need to automate the work. The main management systems we have these days, they allow you to make it relatively quick and easy to create tasks that are normally complex and boring and which often get delayed for those reasons. You can automate the tasks in response to an event, which often translates into user self-service for things like password changes, on and offboarding from HR, and to bundle in many subtasks into those, such as deploying two-factor authentication. In other words, the best practices that we all know we should do, but which are time-consuming, difficult and boring. I'm going to mention once more that something what I always say in all of my presentations here, that's the protection from all the problems that we have is rigorous adherence to security best practices. And many of these relate to endpoint protection and management. Modern management security tools, they're critical these days on all but the smallest and simplest of networks if you're going to implement those best practices. Things like multi-factor authentication and enhanced protection for especially privileged accounts, minimization of access. There's a long list of these things that you need to do, and which these management tools make it easy to automate into the process.
Interesting. Now, people often think that they know how to do things like this, and there can sometimes be some ideas, some best practices, maybe as you mentioned, that people think are best practices that actually may not be, given the current state of the technology, the kinds of attacks we're facing, things like that. So, can you talk a little bit about some common misconceptions then about endpoint management and protection? What are people getting wrong, do you think?
Well, the main thing, it's not so much people doing wrong, but doing suboptimally, is that is the importance of automation. And this is a real consensus in the security world these days. There's a big focus on automation of everything because there's so much to do. The velocity and the scale of all the work is so huge that it's really impossible to do it right unless you're automating the processes. You're always going to miss something. If you need to change something in a process, it's a big deal. Whereas if it's automated, it becomes much simpler. Something else. This isn't exactly a misconception, but it's misconception adjacent. Committing to one of these systems is a really big deal. Depending on how the tool executes, your whole organization might perform better, worse, not at all. So you got to pay close attention to the company's SLA, a service level agreement. You might need a response from them or even some sort of fix in a hurry. So you should check with other customers whose companies may be similar than yours. If you can get that kind of information on what their experiences have been with the tool, then that'll be really helpful. Because it's if you have in a large company, the scope of these products is so large and complex that well, first of all, there's so much work to do that you can't do it without some integration. And it's so large and complex, you really need dedicated staff for them. And having just like one guy is also a fraught situation. As one boss said to me on the eve of being laid off, if you fell through a manhole, would there be any problems for the company? So it's in a large company, you're going to need 24/7 coverage for these things. You might need to hire a service that has people all over the world to do it, and the job has to get done even if the at-work employee isn't available.
Absolutely. All right. So you talked about tools, and I'm wondering if this might actually fall under the misconception category also. But in general, is it true, in your opinion, Larry, that when it comes to endpoint management, more tools is better in every situation, or does it get to the point where where you can have tool sort of overload and tool fatigue?
Um, I think the reason we have all these large management systems now is that it's not good to have any more tools than you have to work with at once. So I mentioned I don't know, maybe I didn't mention, but the vendors all they've been integrating over time because the idea is to provide the admin with a quote single pane of glass, meaning one screen they can look at to get a picture on everything. If you have to flip, admins hate having to flip around between multiple programs to get their work done. So this has led to a lot of consolidation in the industry, which is, in a way, people don't like consolidation in a way, but it's been good because it makes this possible. And it hasn't been like a big part of what these tools do is manage Windows systems. And Microsoft is in this business, but they don't dominate it, even though their tools are considered competitive. So there's very good competition in it. So now, looking at it another way, the systems, they integrate many features into one tool. So is it better to have a lot of features, more features? And I guess the answer is yes, but only if the ability to automate their use becomes easier in proportion to the number of features that you have to use.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you've mentioned automation a couple of times now, and that's also related to the next thing I want to ask you, and that is about AI, artificial intelligence. It's in everything, it seems, these days. It seems every vendor is looking for a way to incorporate AI into their tools. So, is this happening also in the endpoint management and protection space? And if so, how do you see it now and maybe in the future kind of changing the way endpoint management and protection is done?
Well, the logic of machine learning is such that it absolutely should be possible to make the products even more automatable, even higher quality. There's one vendor I can think of in the space that's already claiming that they integrate AI into their products. They've been doing it for a while now, and there are probably others. Um, it's always good to point out, by the way, in this cases like this, the difference between large language models like ChatGPT, which are famous for their imperfections, and AI models that work on a narrower, more focused set of tasks, such as endpoint management and protection. You feed enough history of events in the real world and management responses to them, both good and bad, into these systems. And AI machine learning should be able to learn what the right response is, at least as well as the marginal employee that you would put in charge of the system. Um, I assume nobody really wants to be the first company to take this kind of risk, but maybe OpenAI and Google are already doing it. I have no idea how far, you know, we are from like being able to like really cut down the number of admins who operate these systems, and they're doubtless they're expensive and hard to find. So there's a big incentive for this kind of, for AI to move into this, as it is, in lots of fields.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And it has certainly the ability to dramatically transform the endpoint management and protection tool space like it does every space as well. I think that
Mhm.
is fair to say. Well, Larry, thank you so much for your time and your insights into this growing space, into this very important field of cybersecurity. I really appreciate you being on with us today.
Okay, thanks again for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Larry. And thank you so much to Keith for making that happen, setting the stage and getting all of our brains ready for information on this topic today. I've got a little test to make sure you're all alive, awake, and ready to hear from our presenters, which is why I have a poll for you to answer before I introduce our first speaker. Basically, this poll, you've got what is your time frame for adding new or updating your existing IT solutions at your company? Perhaps it's right away. You're here, you need to take action. Some of you thinking maybe a bit longer term, and perhaps you're just not sure. You're here, you're getting some information, you're doing some reconnaissance, and all of those things are okay. I'll have a few more polls for you later, and I always want to encourage you to be interactive. Make sure you're asking a lot of questions. We should actually have a great chunk of time with both of our presenting teams today for some Q&A. So if you have some questions throughout the presentation, please throw those into the chat. And not only that, but there is a $50 best question gift card from each session. So if you've got some really awesome questions, you might also be rewarded for that. So on today's EcoCast, we have just two fantastic teams presenting. I'm sure it'll fly by, but it is going to be jam-packed with valuable information as always. Again, shout out in the comments if you haven't found that question box yet. Say hello, get yourself ready, and we're gonna have the team of Automox coming out here to kick things off. With that, welcome Peter Flaster. He is the manager of product marketing at Automox. Peter, the stage is all yours. Are you ready?
I am ready. Thank you, Mackenzie.
All righty, take it away.
Great. Awesome. I may need you to advance slides for me. I don't see the button, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Just give me a nudge and we'll make it happen.
100%.
All right.
Awesome. So appreciate everybody attending today, and obviously appreciate your attention through the presentation. We'll keep things interesting with a little demo at the end so you can see kind of how what I'm talking about actually works in our tool. Obviously appreciate your questions and wish you all the best of luck in getting the $50 Best Question Award. Let's go ahead to the next slide. So I probably don't have to tell most of you this, but IT and security today are incredibly complicated. For those of you that are industry veterans, or even those of you that have been in the industry for the last couple of years, you've probably seen either your company or others adopt the cloud, multiple operating systems, and then obviously thousands of applications to keep your workforce as productive and as efficient as possible. Most of our customers that we talk to have not really seen IT technology create easier work for the IT teams that are struggling to manage some of those core responsibilities on their to-do list each day. We pretty much constantly speak with organizations that struggle with the same tooling that has been in circulation for the last couple of decades, potentially in some cases. Often with on-prem infrastructure or clunky retrofitted cloud tooling that really slows them down or makes executing the work that they need to extremely difficult, if not impossible. Most of our customers still, believe it or not, struggle with a lot of VPN dependency, which blocks access for remote workers, but more importantly for those teams, blocks their ability to manage desktops and machines that are used by remote workers reliably. Many of the organizations that we talk to are spending dozens, if not hundreds of hours on manual tasks each week that could pretty easily be automated with a more modern solution. And really those three problems is our entire focus and our entire guiding set of principles in building the product that we have today. One that's simple to use and simple to automate ultimately. Let's go to the next slide. And that approach really enables a new approach to IT and security for those teams where they can update software packages, configure and control all their endpoints and third-party software automatically and regardless of where the device is located, as long as it has an internet connection, right? And really what enables us to do that is building a solution that's cloud native. So you don't have to worry about VPNs or just maintaining the infrastructure that lets you get work done. We don't think teams should have to worry about that today. We especially don't think teams should have to troubleshoot databases that support those tools, such as SQL databases. We know a lot of you have probably become experts in managing those databases just to keep the lights on. We've also built focus on building a lightweight solution. So something that you can deploy really quickly and act pretty much immediately on devices that you deploy to. And then of course, any tool today needs to be flexible, right? All organizations are unique. Their SLAs are unique. The way that they manage is different. So we need to make sure that the solution is truly flexible and always on. Let's jump to the next slide. And how we do that, first of all, is by allowing our users to really automate any action at scale. And we do this by a tool that we call worklets. And worklets are essentially just a capability to deploy any scriptable action. And since we manage Windows, Mac, and Linux devices, we do that with Bash and PowerShell scripts. We have a catalog of well over 300 included automations today, and that's built out and maintained by a team of former administrators and security experts here at Automox. So basically, our customers are able to go into that worklet catalog, which you'll see shortly in the demo here, and select pretty much any automation use case and pull it into their environment and start automating, whether that's just in time action or truly automating on a schedule and at scale. We also have the ability to draft scripts with AI. A lot of our customers are using Ask Auto, which is our plugin to an LLM that allows them to generate PowerShell and Bash scripts to go ahead and do unique automations across their environment. Most of the time, it's saving them 20 to 30 minutes per automation, just getting that first draft out there extremely quickly. And then, of course, for those of you that are highly skilled in those scripting languages, you can build stuff entirely bespoke prior to deploying it. Let's jump to the next slide. The other piece that I think has pretty much been a problem since computers and software has existed is patching. And most organizations that we talk to still haven't solved for this in an elegant way. They're still spending a ton of time and a ton of manual work getting the patches deployed, whether that's monthly on Patch Tuesday or for a big vulnerability, a big 0-day that's been patched and getting that deployed out of band. So with our solution, our customers are actually managing this through a single pane of glass for both Windows workstations and servers, as well as Mac OS and over 10 distributions of Linux. The other nice piece here is third-party patching that's truly automated. So for those of you on some other solutions, you may be managing the actual packaging of the updates and deploying them down to the devices. With Automox, we automate that for you, and we store the updates in our cloud, and we scan them for vulnerabilities with a solution that we call Patch Safe, which is essentially using an industry-leading malware detection platforms to examine each package before it's deployed down to your environment. And we can patch over 500 software titles on Windows and Mac OS with that tool automatically. So our customers are seeing a drastic reduction in the amount of manual work and time that they're spending patching. And obviously, it's very simple for them to set up a few policies and truly automate that within Automox for any device, regardless of where it's located. Let's jump to the next slide. And really, for our customers, the impact of working in this way with this approach is massive. Most of our customers go from a legacy solution or potentially even absolute zero to deploy to their endpoints, to doing work and creating automation policies for configuration, patching, vulnerability remediation in less than 5 minutes. We've deployed to environments with 5,000 plus endpoints in just a couple of hours, multiple times. And once the agents are deployed, automated policies can really materially reduce the time spent managing on your ongoing compliance work across operating system and software updates, as well as kind of maintaining and enforcing configuration settings across your entire environment. And then, of course, with the cloud native architecture and ease of use and automation capabilities, our users are seeing dramatic reduction in administrative costs. This is from a study that you can find on our website through ESG. Let's jump to the next slide. We already have thousands of customers today. You'll probably recognize quite a few of these customers. We serve a range of businesses, size-wise as well as vertical-wise, and all of them are getting outstanding results from a configuration and automation standpoint, as well as patching. Let's hop to the next slide. But really, my favorite quote, and I think something that will probably resonate with quite a few of you, is just having a system that you can trust and that just works with as little maintenance and troubleshooting as possible. That's what the majority of our customers care about at the end of the day. So I really like this quote. And with that being said, let's stop looking at PowerPoint and let's jump into the actual demo here. If you can go one more slide for me quick, Mackenzie. If what I'm talking about today resonates or you see something really interesting in the demo, and again, I'm just going to scratch the surface with this demo. If that's enticing, you can head to this URL and actually request a full demo that goes through all the bells and whistles of the platform. So go ahead and do that if this was enticing to you. But let's jump into the demo. Mackenzie, are you able to see that?
Not yet.
Let's see.
Can troubleshoot a touch here.
Let me try sharing just the Chrome window. There we
Okay,
go.
I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it. Magic.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, did not want to share this full screen, but Chrome window works. Awesome. This is great. So this is actually our console, right? Actually just logging in, it will create your own, once you set up a trial account, for example, or once we get you set up on your own account. This is kind of your central hub right here. All the infrastructure is cloud native in AWS on our end, so there's no database maintenance, there's no deploying of the tool, there's no managing of updates for the infrastructure of the tool, nor for the agent. That stuff is all done automatically on our end, which reduces a ton of work on your team if you're using one of those legacy solutions today. From your initial login on your dashboard, you get a quick glance of your environment. You can see the devices that you have and kind of their compliance states. You can see outstanding patches, and you can also see the mix of your environment. You can see here most of my demo environment I have is actually Linux. But what I really want to discuss today is automation. I want to show you how easy it is to automate with Automox. So I'm going to go into our automation or worklet catalog here. This is that 300 plus automation script catalog that's actually created and maintained by that team of former IT administrators and security experts here at Automox. For today, we'll actually do a quick use case on BitLocker compliance. So you can see here, this automation is more of an audit use case. And what a lot of our customers are using worklets today is for vulnerability remediation, configuration changes, and enforcement as well. They're also using them for auditing and just-in-time help desk as well. If they need to go and change a device status or go in and deploy a software to a specific end user in real time, they can do that with worklets. If you are really into the tech and you want to see what the code's actually doing on the back end, I can take a look at the code preview and see. And in this case, this is a Windows automation, so I can see all the PowerShell to see what it's actually doing on my device, right? So there are two ways to automate in Automox. If it's a just-in-time kind of acting at scale, you can actually run this now. You can get progress reporting and instant feedback on the status of that automation and what the outcome was, right? If I'm checking the BitLocker compliance, I can actually see in real time. If I check this on 500 devices at once, I can see the answer to my question coming back in real time on the BitLocker compliance status of my devices. If I want to be more hands-off, though, and just create a policy that checks this on a recurring basis for me, or if it's for configuration, for example, goes and checks my configuration and then fixes it if I'm out of compliance automatically, I can do that by creating a worklet and associating it to a group of devices here. I'll do it in my roaming devices. Again, we can impact change, deploy patches, etc., on devices located anywhere. As long as they have an internet connection, there's no need for VPNs. I can also, again, see my code if I want to make changes to it. You can see Ask Otto in the corner if you want to try to write your own script with the assistance of Ask Otto. He's right there for you. And then ultimately the schedule, of course, right? I'm going to have this automation check every single day on my devices at 12 a.m. to ensure I'm in compliance for BitLocker. If you had a configuration or a change that you wanted to force a reboot on, for example, you're deploying a vulnerability remediation and you want to reboot devices after to ensure they actually take that configuration change, you can do that and notify the user to ensure minimal disruption. From there, I can go ahead and create my policy. And that's really how easy it is to automate in Automox. I just created a policy that will check my BitLocker compliance every day. And I can actually see for my devices, I can see the current status of that policy as well. So if I go and search for my devices, I can find one of those Windows devices that's in my roaming workstation group. And I can open it up and see all the associated policies and automations that run for the specific device, as well as the current status of the automation, whether it's in compliance or preparing for remediation if it's out of compliance. Of course, there's also reports to see us on a global level, but with about 5 minutes here, I want to actually stop the demonstration and see what questions we have from the audience.
Sure thing. We've got quite a few questions rolling on in here, so if you're ready for it, let's do it.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay, beautiful. This one is from Aiden. So it says, overly complex security tools sometimes leads to user frustration and workarounds. It really does affect me. How does this solution strike a balance between robust protection and a user-friendly experience? This solution being Automox, of course.
Awesome. Yeah, I think the general term that I've seen that referred to is shadow IT or shadow security, right? So things in your existing tools are really difficult to execute action on. You know, it could be really any use case ultimately, but it creates this thing called shadow IT or shadow security, where people are creating their own solutions to work around some difficulty in their actual environment. So the first piece, you know, that we kind of approach this from to address it is just making a console that the user experience kind of guides everything. We have a UX team here. They are involved extremely early in the development process before any code's written, of course, but kind of in the initial discovery, hand in hand with our product managers, to figure out what does the UX need to be for this feature to ensure our customers can learn the console in just a couple of hours instead of a couple of weeks. So everyone's on the same page and it can be picked up quickly. Obviously, for those of you in IT and security, unfortunately, turnover is a huge problem. And losing people that have a great knowledge of a very, very complex tool can take months to replace, or months or even potentially years to train them up back to that level, to the person that left. And the approach that we've taken with our solution is making it really simple to adopt. We have a free training academy as well, so everyone can be on the same page about how the tool works. So that's the first piece. The second piece, obviously, is a really robust audit trail, which is pretty much what it sounds like. So if something does change and you need to dig into why, it's really simple for you to go into our UX and actually look up that audit trail and figure out why something changed. Of course, on top of that, we also have RBAC. So you can provision roles and zones, we call them. So specific estates of devices. A great example is a lot of our organizations have a server zone and a workstation zone, and they have specific RBAC that only allows some users to access each of those zones if it's within their scope of duties today.
Amazing. Well, I have to say, like, in terms of the visual appeal to this, it just looks great. It seems really seamless. I love tech, but I always joke that when I see a programming screen, my brain is just like, none of this. So seeing the demo go live, I was like, oh, it looks great. Enough about me. I have a question here about worklets. So essentially a little bit more information about what they are and how to use them. Are they kind of plug and play building blocks, drag and drop, or how does that work? If you can shed a bit more light on.
Yeah, so there are some worklets that you can literally just grab and push out. So that BitLocker compliance worklet I showed you really just goes and checks the compliance and then tells you what it is. So that one you pretty much just run with. But there are other ones. Great example is installing a network printer. That's a great example of one that we would consider plug and play, because you go in and you actually input the name of the printer or attach the configuration for that printer to the worklet, and our script will just call that to write it to your devices. So a lot of our customers use that one to deploy network printers to specific offices to make sure people can actually, print. And I know printers are everyone's favorite in IT, but that's one way that they're plug and play. Some of our customers that are more advanced with scripting and more comfortable with it will actually go and write these entirely themselves. A great example is we've had some customers that will take very specific GPO policies that they had in their Active Directory and write that PowerShell into a worklet themselves. So then they can replace the need for a VPN in their current Active Directory and kind of move that into Automox.
Amazing. I just want to give a shout out to everyone in the audience. I have put up a poll here, so if you're looking for some additional information from Automox, go answer that there. This is kind of your easy button. Are you looking for white papers, data sheets, personal demo? And I still have plenty more questions for you here, Peter, so don't run away yet. One to follow up on with that, with the worklets, someone was asking about custom scripts. So in terms of the scripts they can program into, do you guys support that? And how does that work?
Yeah. So anything you can write in Bash or PowerShell, you can put directly into a workload automation. I've also seen customers when they know they have, Python, for example, installed, they'll attach a Python script and call it with PowerShell. So that's kind of another potential use case there as well.
Excellent. Question here from Josh about third-party applications. So it's asking what third-party applications are supported. I know you brought that up a little bit in the presentation, but if you can shed some additional light on that, that'd be great.
Of course. Yeah. So I debated. I could read them all out. We might be here for an hour or two, though. If you actually go to Google and search Automox third-party software support, we've got the full catalog just publicly available there for you to look at. We support for Windows, I want to say it's about 300 something, maybe 350, and then Mac is 200 something. But pretty much any major title. The other cool thing is we have a team here that actually maintains that catalog and adds new automations. So you can actually go and request new titles to be added as well. That's how we've added quite a few titles to our catalog.
Amazing. So you're always rolling out more on top of the
Yeah, great example. We started last year. I think we were around 150 titles last year, and now we're up over 500. So we've had a pretty exponential growth of the catalog over the past year.
That's great. Okay, I've got a question here about patching. So I know you've got a lot of support, and the automatic patching is a really awesome feature. This asks about if a patch does cause an issue, is there some kind of like a rollback feature built into this?
Yeah, there's a rollback feature. Obviously, with Mac OS, there's not really patch rollback if you've ever managed Mac devices, and that's not really something any vendor can control. That's more of a quirk with Apple. If you wanted to roll back, let's say you updated to, I don't know, so I forget the exact order of the Mac updates, but if you updated to like Sonoma and you wanted to roll back to the previous release, like you would have to basically re-image that device. But that is universal with Apple devices. For Windows and Linux, there's very easy rollback at the click of a button.
Okay, amazing. Easy peasy. Theme of the day with you guys. Okay, I have a question here. Where did it go? Sorry. Might have disappeared. Okay, I'll pick another one here. Oh yes, here it was. Okay. Chris is asking, is there a ticketing system, and is there any sort of like a customer portal if they want to send in tickets?
Yes, 100%. We use Zendesk for our kind of facilitation, but yes, we have a full portal. And then also there's additional purchase options. We have a premium support option that can give you access to like a named CSM, et cetera. But all of our customers get access to ticketing and support.
Okay. And a question here about, does this work for small teams as well as large enterprises? If you say have less than 20 subs, does that work?
Yes. And I actually just sent a chat for the person that asked the question about the software catalog earlier. I just posted that link in the chat. We have seen a ton of traction and success with very small customers. A lot of our teams are teams of one or just a couple people that are trying to essentially control the chaos, right? And they've been attracted to Automox because it can really help to take a big load off of their shoulders. So if you're a small business, I would definitely encourage you to take a look at us. We have a lot of folks using us successfully in that space.
Amazing. Great. Okay, I think we have time for maybe one final question. Okay, question here is about the patching. So how do they know for certain that these automatic patches have been secured? Is there a dashboard, a report that comes out?
Yep. Yes, there's reports. There's reports within the UI. If you're an organization that likes to do your reporting somewhere else, we have some organizations that are actually using the API for that report. Our whole console, right? Like most modern software tools, we're API first. So we have an API for pretty much everything, just standard, well documented REST based API. So you could pipe that stuff into like Tableau or Power BI if you're doing other reporting there today, but it's also available directly within the UI.
Amazing. Well, I think that's all the time we have for today. But if someone does want to take that next step, is the demo the best call, or where should they go? What should they do?
Yeah, that demo request on the previous couple slides that we went through is the preferred route there. That'll get you in touch, and we'll get back to you extremely quickly if you request through there.
Amazing. Well, with that, I'm going to let you go, Peter. Thank you so much for being here. It definitely seems like people are interested. And if you guys haven't checked out Automox before, there's also a handout in the Handouts tab, a PDF in there, kind of a nice 2-pager with some information you should grab as well. So yeah, thanks so much, Peter.
Thank you. Really appreciate the questions.
All right. Take good care. If we didn't get to your question today, I do apologize, but there's just only so much time in a day, But the Automox team will absolutely be reaching out afterwards to follow up with any information that you've requested through the poll or also through your questions directly in the chat. Now, I do have one of our 3 $100 Amazon gift cards to give away. Quick reminder, you must be present at the webinar to win. And our first lucky winner is Patrick Rinaldi from Ohio. Patrick, huge congrats. We'll be reaching out after today's EcoCast to let you know how you can claim the prize. And with that, let's keep things zipping along. Our next presenter on today's roster is from Tanium. I'm sure some of you will recognize this familiar face if you were on our recent megacast. So welcome back, Tim. Please let me introduce Tim Heichel. He is the Director of Technical Solutions Engineering. Tim, I'm looking forward to hearing what you've got to say on this topic. Are you ready to rock and roll here?
I am ready.
Okay, take it away, Tim, and I'll be back on for Q&As. Make sure you guys keep sending in your questions.
Yeah, and I had a mild heart palpitation and my vision was blurry, and that's when I realized that I was awake for 26 hours. And this is a reality for me about 4 years ago, right? I was tired, I was stressed, I was staring at computer screens for a really long time. None of those things are good. What I want to talk about is an experience that I had that if we had had Tanium at that time would have been completely different, right? And you see, my wife was 9 months pregnant with our second child. And so I was already prepping for some sleepless nights. But what happened in the 34 hours leading up to the birth of my daughter, I was not prepared for. You see, the company I was working for, we were in the business of change. We had a massive footprint, over 100,000 machines. And I got paged to a bridge on a Thursday morning. I found myself on a call with about 100 other folks. And that morning, what we found was an unexpected change. Our processing platform was hard down. And it took this team of 100 people nearly 33 hours to fully resolve that issue. And when I look back on the cause, it's actually kind of silly to me, right? We had just done a upgrade to all of our production databases the night before, and that was what technically brought the systems down. But we could have failed over to disaster recovery. problem there was we also applied those same changes that very same night to disaster recovery. So we were left in a position of no failover, right? And so we had to spend 33 hours understanding the technical issue with the upgrade, and eventually we were able to recover, but not before causing a lot of pain for our customers and their customers and our employees. Being awake for that long kind of turns you into a zombie. And all of this could have been avoided if we would have had the right data inside of our CIs in the CMDB, right? So at some point you scale to a point where it's really hard to keep track of all of the changes that are traversing through the change management process. And we as organizations have to rely on the accuracy of the change that was entered and the configuration items attached to that change in order to be successful. And that's where I ran into this gap that caused me to be awake for 26 hours. And what I'm going to talk about today is how Tanium can provide visibility at speed and scale and help prevent these types of impacts and drive better business outcomes through tackling endpoint management. All right, so I'll get right into that. So if you don't know what Tanium is a endpoint management platform. We traverse a lot of different areas. The slide that you see here, we hit on endpoint management as a domain for third-party application management, patching, software deployment, imaging of devices. We traverse both operations and security, and we're really designed to bring those two teams together to work from a single pane of glass, provide visibility into vulnerability management and FIM monitoring, sensitive data discovery, everything to what happens after something's living and breathing in your environment with incident response and lateral movement assessment, and also digital employee experience. And Tanium brings all of this together with one technology, one agent. We're a cloud-based solution. We can be deployed to any architecture, right? Whether it's cloud, a laptop, a desktop. We don't care where the devices are. As long as they've got an internet connection, we're going to be able to help manage them and get insight into what's happening on those devices. And when we think about operational risk, which is really what I experienced that kept me awake for so long, think about two things, right? We have this be proactive and be responsive. And this might look familiar to some folks who were on a prior call, right? But it's really about understanding your operational risk in real time and then being able to respond to operational impacts when they happen in real time. And to do that, we have to have real-time data, right? If I'm making business decisions on data that I can't quantify the accuracy of, I can't really make smart business decisions that are going to lead to the expected outcome. A great example of that is the situation I went through, right? We had data inside of our CMDB. We didn't have the appropriate tags in place for what those systems were. And unfortunately, we had a situation where a change was approved in two places at the same time. And that led us to a very rough patch. And just to break this down a little bit further, right? It's really about, on the proactive side, knowing what your asset inventory is, what your assets are running, when are you patching the devices, what changes in general are being executed against those devices. Do you have a database upgrade coming soon? Do you have a backout plan? Is the backout plan secure? And do you have your assets properly classified, right? And that's where we fell down. Right? Making sure that you know what's a production system versus a DR system and when and where you should implement those changes becomes really important, because if you don't do those things, you're going to end up on the phone for a really long time. Being responsive, we look at when we're in a production downtime, we're constantly assessing cost, right? If our core platform is down, there are SLAs that we're likely missing. There's business opportunity that we are missing. And it's also really expensive to get 100 people on the phone to try to fix a problem, right? And that's where making sure that you have access to real-time data so that you can reduce your mean time to response to these types of operational impacts becomes a massive benefit, right? How quickly can I prevent further impact, right? If there's a domino effect, I think we've all been on the phone and had a situation where something went wrong on one server, and the next thing we know, there's another server with the same problem, and then another and another, and we end up having to take the same action on multiple devices. right? How do I get ahead of that? And then do I have a process in place to assign remediation tasks to all team members? This goes back to utilizing all the resources that you have. You have folks on both teams that are very capable individuals. And so empowering those folks with a tool that has real-time data and can take real-time action can mean a really big difference at the end of the day. What I'm going to do here, I'm actually going to share my screen. We're going to talk just about what Tanium is at a high level. And then we will go into a couple use cases and talk about how it could have been different. Awesome. All right. So this is the Tanium console. Again, Tanium does a ton of different use cases, anything from patching, risk management, vulnerability scanning, asset discovery, employee experience, all these different parts and pieces, performance monitoring. All these things are what I would consider workflows that different teams might execute on. And we brought them into a single platform, and they all, at the end of the day, leverage this real-time capability. So I can come out here and I can type in something like installed applications and very quickly get a list of all the installed applications. And what's amazing about this is not stale data. This is all real time. I've got about 1,000 machines in this environment that just responded back in less than 15 seconds. And I can do things with this data, right? Maybe I want to look at running processes. We've got a natural language parser here that we use to know what you're trying to type in and help guide you. And if I find something I want to take action on, maybe it's Tanium client itself, right? I can click this deploy action button. And what I'm taken to is a deployment screen where I can select what I want to do. And in this case, maybe I want to restart a service as an example, right? I could do that directly from within the tool. I could restart a specific service if I want to, or I could restart the service that we're targeting here. Maybe I want to stop this service as an example too. And what we're doing is in real time, we're assessing all the machines that fit the criteria. So the question that we asked is the source, and we can see how many endpoints fit that criteria. We'll even get a preview of what those endpoints are. And then we can take action on it. And this action that we're taking could be to stop a service. It could be to run a PowerShell script that you have. Maybe this is something that we want to schedule. We can go in, and this is where automation opportunity comes into play. If I can identify an attribute or a condition that exists on a machine, I can then use that to get rid of the unwanted condition that exists on the machine and resolve the problem that I'm experiencing. And I can do that in an automated way so that I don't have to continue to come in here and touch these things. This idea of asking questions and getting answers back and then taking action is the basis of everything that we do in Tanium. So when we look at what it means to ask a question, there is no black box. I'm able to come in, I can see immediately how the information was pulled from an endpoint. I don't have to be an expert code guru to use Tanium. Tanium comes with all of these things out of the box. But if I do want to know how this worked, I can see the code and I can modify the code and I can clone this. Maybe this gets me 90% of what I want, right? I can adjust this to get the difference. And so there's a lot of ancillary use cases that come out of this too. You think about someone coming to your desk and asking for some information, right? They're not sure that you're going to have what they're asking for. In fact, you're not sure, right? Maybe it's already in the CMDB, maybe it's not. But having a tool that is dynamic in terms of what we can pull back is really important when we look at those types of use cases, right? Where we don't necessarily know what we're going to be asked tomorrow, but we know we have a tool that's going to be able to address those things. The other thing I want to hit on here, any piece of data that we get can be taken and sent downstream to other systems. So you look at ServiceNow, we've got over 9 integrations with the ServiceNow platform, right? Anything from populating the CMDB, the CI records with accurate information, all the way to full lifecycle vulnerability management, orchestrated patching capabilities directly within ServiceNow, and things like file integrity monitoring, change management correlation. What happened? Was there a change open? Those come baked out of the box. So if you're already leveraging ServiceNow, Tanium is a really good value add to bolster the investment that you've made in that solution. We'll talk a little bit about just the discovery capabilities that Tanium has, because they're pretty unique. Where I came from, we would spend a lot of time trying to collect information about the devices on the network. And it might take, for some solutions, up to 3 weeks to do that, right? From the time you execute a scan until you get results back in terms of what's on the network, it could be 3 weeks. And the time it takes to get that data also means that the accuracy and the dependability of that data has been downgraded, right? If it's 3 weeks old, it doesn't look like it did when the scan happened or when the scan started. And that means that I can't necessarily trust that information to execute. And it goes back to, I can't possibly automate and predict an outcome if I don't know what it looks like today, right now. So this ability to scan, what's unique about Tanium, and this is really the secret sauce that I think separates us, is this architecture that you're seeing on the screen here, which is a traditional architecture is very hub and spoke. So you've got multiple failure points within here. It also takes some time to collect that information. And so if one of these relay servers goes down, you've got a segment of the environment that didn't get patching or you don't have visibility into. It's also a lot of overhead to manage, right? Tanium uses what we call linear chain architecture, which is a patented chain communication method where machines within the same subnet will peer with one another. And we can use that to very quickly move in and out of different subnets in the environment. And so when we talk about discovery scanning, instead of blasting the entire subnet range, we already know what devices are in the same subnet that we're managing, and we really just have to scan the white spaces between the known devices. And so that makes that 3 week discovery time get reduced to something like maybe an hour, right? I've got organizations scanning their environments every hour for new assets. We found a crypto miner underneath someone's desk here recently with one of our scans. So this is something that's afforded through this linear chain. The other thing that I want to mention here with this is when we talk about moving data through the environment, let's say it's a Windows patch, which we certainly can do. If you've got a 1 gig patch that needs to go out to 2 sites and there's 60 machines at each site, that could potentially be 120 gigs that need to traverse the network. Tanium breaks up that 1 gig file into shards, and we distribute those shards randomly across the machines within the same subnet, and then they can reconstitute those files locally. So from a bandwidth utilization perspective, when we talk about low latency networks, you've got maybe a dial-up connection, right, with 200 machines you need to patch. Tanium can not only do that by reducing the amount of bandwidth required to get those packages there, but also prep. So before that maintenance window happens, we can have everything staged and ready to go. There's quite a bit there that can be beneficial. But this scanning, once we've scanned a device, we can laterally deploy the client. So if there is a machine that we find that's unmanaged, right, it's not an endpoint Tanium's installed on, we can leverage Tanium from one of the managed devices to laterally deploy the client to the unmanaged device and bring that device under management and under compliance, which is another unique capability there. Lost is probably my favorite bucket when we talk about discovery. These are devices that were living and breathing in the network. They had Tanium installed, but now they're living and breathing in the network and they don't have Tanium anymore. These are your problem children. So we're really good at telling on ourselves. Maybe somebody removed the agent or the agent broke and can no longer talk to Tanium. Maybe the network connectivity was severed. There's a new firewall rule. We're going to help you find those things and bring them to the forefront. Once a device is under management, we get all kinds of rich context about that device. Not only can I see all of my assets that I have, which gets harvested every hour on the hour and put into this database. So regardless of if it's online or not, I can see it. But I get very, very detailed information. I can click on one of these devices. I can see hardware information, its uptime, installed applications, the versions of those applications, disks. Any piece of data that you see in here can be sent upstream to something like a ServiceNow SAM Pro, as an example, or HAM, right? Where it can be used to manage internal business processes inside of ServiceNow. The other thing I want to hit on, we offer up the ability to not only find the software that's installed, but actually see how often it's being used or if it's ever been used. So when we talk about license reclamation, there's a really good opportunity there. I've actually had some of our customers pay for Tanium with the license savings that they got from, reclaiming licenses from Adobe, as an example. It's certainly an area that can be advantageous, and all this information, this SIU information, can also be sent into ServiceNow through SAM Pro, or it can be used to correlate to the licenses that you've paid for and reclaim some of those. Get some money back in your pocket. You got money laying on the counter. Tanium is a very, very capable product in terms of the broad width of functionality that's there. But if I were going to deduce this down a little bit, right, what I would say is that anytime you need information from endpoints in your environment, Tanium is the tool of choice to get that information very quickly and then take action on it for a business decision. A really good example of that, when we have vulnerabilities that come out, which there are a ton, right? This XC backdoor vulnerability that was baked into an open source library is a great example. It just came out here recently. We actually ship dashboards directly within the tool that will show you your exposure to this particular vulnerability. And the reason I wanted to bring this particular vulnerability up is because it's a library. It's like a shared component, right? Those things are really hard to find. It's like a log4j. It's oval scanners, traditional vulnerability tools, cannot see down into war and jar files. They're looking at a symptom and not the source of the problem. They're always reactive to, right? There has to be a definition. We have to know that a particular version of software is using a library that is vulnerable. What Tanium does is we take a little bit of a different approach with our SBOM capabilities, where we can actually index the drive and see the subcomponents that make up a given application. So when Adobe builds their products, right, they use shared libraries. And those shared libraries are what Tanium can identify through indexing. It's almost like taking a chocolate chip cookie and deconstructing it so you know all the ingredients, the sugar, the eggs that went in to make that cookie. And that's post-build, right? It's basically at execution. So that is a differentiator. Not a lot of tools can do that. Almost no other vulnerability scanning tool can do that. And that's a great insight to have, because now I can take this data and I can make smart business decisions about my risk posture on this. I can decide if I'm going to uninstall the piece of software that has this underpinning component. And I can also go to that vendor and flip the script. Instead of waiting 4 weeks for a definition to get generated, I can turn that story around and say, hey, Mr. Adobe, I see that you've got this version of this particular shared library that you're using that's vulnerable. When are you going to fix this? Or stop using the product. The other thing that I'll hit on here is just the ability to understand your overall risk. Right? We can patch, we can do all the important things we need to do, but at the end of the day, we do those things to keep the environment hygienic. Right? We want to make sure we're doing all the things we need to do to stay hygienic. And Tanium uses a risk scoring method to actually track over time the perceived risk in the environment. And we do that through multiple vectors that you see listed here, right? We're looking at vulnerability. So we're doing scans for vulnerabilities. We're looking at compliance. Think of CIS benchmarks, CIS 18 standards, administrative access. That's lateral movement opportunity, right? If one machine was popped, how many hops would it take until somebody can get to your domain controller, as an example? Password identification. Do you have flat files laying around that have passwords in them? Expired certs and insecure TLS, those are pretty self-explanatory. But what's nice about this, I can click down into these and I can not only see over time how I've been, am I driving the right direction, right? But I can use this as a method to target and prioritize remediation. If I was going to fix one CVE today, because we all know we don't have enough time to fix them all, where would I focus? I would focus on the one that has the largest attack surface, the largest CVSS score, and the highest criticality impact. And from here, I can check a box and I can get two options, right? I can go and pivot into patch. And what this is going to allow me to do is go from finding something to immediately addressing that, right? If there's a patch available for that particular CVE, we're going to see those applicable patches, and we can right from here go down the route of actually installing the patch. Or I can learn more about the CVE. I mentioned criticality. Endpoint criticality is the ability to dynamically set requirements or attributes to classify a machine as more critical or less critical than another machine. And that plays into all of that risk calculation that you were seeing there. So certainly we know domain controllers are critical devices. So we're looking for where we see a domain controller and we're classifying that as critical. This is completely customizable. So any question attribute that we can ask inside of Tanium can be used to drive, or could even be nested, right? Maybe it's this or that, or this and that, to drive this type of scoring method. And so at the end of the day, the value that Tanium brings is really real-time visibility and control at scale, risk prioritization, and the ability to take action to remediate whatever it is that you're facing, right? Whether it be an operations related issue or not. Now I'm going to pivot back over to some slides here. So I will stop sharing. And when we look at it from a business perspective, one of the biggest value adds here is really the ability to reduce your tool set, right? A lot of organizations have a ton of tools that do all the little bits and pieces that we talked about today. And those tools require infrastructure, they require management. You've got to have skills to manage them. You've got to have the ability to stitch that data together, right? Context is really important. Understanding how vulnerabilities relate to other aspects of the environment. Tanium does all that in one place and reduces that complexity. It's all about simplifying the management, right? And so even if you displace 2 or 3 tools with Tanium, that's certainly a win in my book. You'll get efficiencies out of doing that. And then the last thing I wanted to hit on, certainly feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. There's my QR code. This is the only time I'll ask you to use a QR code. And we do have our Converge World Tour going on right now, which is all across the globe. We've set up miniature Converge events, and Converge is the Tanium conference that we have every year. Converge World Tour is a result of that conference, where we run that same conference in different segments of the market across the globe. So I would certainly encourage you folks to reach out and ask any questions that you have. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd be more than happy to talk Tanium with you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Tim. That was great. I love seeing the demo in action as well. Just so you guys know, if I'm going to switch off the QR. So if you want to check that out, do it now. And then I'm going to throw up a poll, just seeing what additional resources you might want from the Tanium team. Voila. Feel free to answer that now. We've just got 1 or 2 minutes here for Q&A with you, Tim. So I'm going to try to make it count. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
Okay, excellent. Okay, I've got a question here about kind of stale data. Does it really matter that data gets old if it's not in use? What's the business risk?
Yeah, so the business risk with stale data is exactly what happened in my story that I told in the beginning there, right? We had an environment, we repurposed some of the names, our CMDB didn't get updated in time, and we deployed a change to the wrong set of equipment, right? We attached the wrong set of equipment to a change. So in my mind, if we're operating on stale data, we can't make accurate decisions. If we don't know how old the data is we're operating on, there's no way for us to validate that that state is still the same state, and therefore I can't possibly predict the outcome.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, I've got a couple questions here. One about integrating with Microsoft Intune. A, does it do that? And then I have kind of another question I'm going to bundle in with just how turnkey is Tanium for kind of small businesses and larger enterprises.
Absolutely, yeah. So Intune, we do have an integration with Intune. So if you're using Intune, you can bring all of your Intune data into Tanium Asset for that one view of the environment. We've also got 3 other integrations with Microsoft, anywhere from Sentinel all the way to Azure AD for Zero Trust. So Microsoft and ServiceNow are our strategic partners. So if you're leveraging those products, there's a lot of synergy there.
Awesome.
And then you mentioned the second question there. That was around, what was that?
Sorry, yeah, I know. I'm maybe a bit ambitious. Essentially, how turnkey is Tanium for both kind of
Oh, yeah.
smaller businesses and larger enterprise?
Yeah. So, we offer proof of values. So if you would like to see Tanium in action, you can certainly see that through a proof of value. That would be like a 30-day long proof of value. But we also offer deployment services to make sure that you're getting the value. The last thing we want is shelfware, right? If you're going to purchase Tanium, we're going to make sure that you're going to be successful in deployment and use. And that goes all the way from businesses with 1,000 endpoints all the way up to 1 million endpoints.
Okay, nice. So definitely scalable. I
Yes,
have
sir.
a couple questions that have come in around AI. So one was asking, can AI be involved with this? And another one asking if there's kind of AI assist when you're setting up groups and accesses. Can you speak to that a bit?
Yeah, so Tanium is headed down the path of autonomous endpoint management. So what we should see within the roadmap, and if you go out to our Tanium site, you'll see we have this AEM defined. Automated endpoint management is in conjunction with AI, right? So we're going to be integrating more and more into the AI space, using AI as a tool for recommendations of what to do in your environment, how to manage your environment. Those things are right on the horizon. As it sits today, right now we're very close to coming out with some new capabilities that help dramatically with complicated automation, and they're certainly driving the direction of automation as well. So
Okay.
be on the lookout.
Excellent. Excellent. So more to come, definitely in development. That sounds great. Okay. I think we're going to have to wrap here. So I'm just going to ask you, Tim, if you have one final takeaway for the audience or a follow-up step, what do you want to leave everyone with here today?
Yeah, I would say, check out the Tanium site. Please feel free to add me on LinkedIn. Would love to connect and talk a little bit more about your situation. But at the end of the day, what we're solving for with Tanium is really the foundation of IT, right? If you don't have good visibility into where your assets are, how many you have, you can't possibly manage or secure those devices. And that's where Tanium's going to really make a big difference for organizations. And I appreciate your time.
Yeah, you as well. Thank you for being here. Looking forward to the next time, and take good care, Tim.
Thank you.
You are welcome. All right, if you did send in a question and it was not answered, do not fret. The Tanium team will definitely be reaching out after today's EcoCast, which is going to wrap shortly here with a little bit of additional information for you. If you do want to learn more right away, go to the handout tab and click the link for the white paper. This is Converged Endpoint Management Delivers the Goods. Risk reduction, productivity gains, licensing fee savings, and improved employee experiences. This is actually quite a great kind of research piece that's been done here in PDF. So grab that. It's done by the IDF, sponsored by Tanium. So you'll definitely want to check that out. And it's a great way to follow up with the conversation we've had here with Tim today. Now, that said, that's all of the valuable info we're going to impart for this EcoCast, but I do have a couple of prizes to give away. So we've got the second and third $300 Amazon gift cards. Again, you do need to be present to win, so let's hope that our final winners are indeed still here. Drum roll, please, for winner number 2, the lucky Donald Lutz from Colorado, and the winner of the third gift card, Robert Haluska from Illinois. Huge congrats to all 3 of our winners today. And just to recap, in case you had stepped away for a minute, we've got Patrick Rinaldi from Ohio, Donald Lutz from Colorado, Robert Haluska from Illinois. And as always, we will be in touch about claiming your prize after the webinar, plus those best question gift cards from each session. So thank you again for being so interactive today. We did get a boatload of questions. And as always, the more you put in, the more you get out. If you are on the webinar today and you would like to chat with us about presenting on a future summit, EcoCast, or MegaCast webinar, we would absolutely love to hear from you. You can reach out via email at connect@actualtechmedia.com. And with that, and on behalf of Actual Tech Media's team, I want to thank all of our speakers from Automox and Tanium for making this EcoCast possible and for being here with us today. An additional special thank you to all of you for attending. Sometimes it's very hard to pull up from the tasks of the day and get out and learn and do some reconnaissance and make those kind of future strategic steps. So thank you for being here and doing that today and for learning a bit more about endpoint management and protection tools. I hope you've all got some interesting ideas and tips, and maybe you're leaving feeling excited and ready to rock with some next steps. If you enjoyed your time today and wish to check out an upcoming EcoCast, mark your calendar for supporting, securing, and enhancing Microsoft-centric environments. That is tomorrow, Thursday, April 11th, same time, 12 p.m. Eastern or 9 a.m. Pacific. It's a great session for those of you who work heavily with Microsoft, and I definitely recommend signing up for that if so. Alrighty, that's all, folks. I hope to see you again soon. And until then, I hope you have an absolutely magical day. Take care.